Welcome to the Brian and Sherry Show 4.0. Awesome guests, cool giveaways, and a whole lot more. And it all starts now.
Thanks, Josh. Hey, everyone. Brian here. And, of course, I'm joined with my co-host, none other than Sherry Johnson.
Hi, everyone, and welcome to the show tonight. We have an amazing guest that will be on in just a little while. And, Brian, it has been an awful long week for me. I don't know about you.
It has, yes.
You know, we were
Since
supposed to gain that hour.
Yeah.
It didn't feel like it at all. So.
No, it has not.
All I can say is it's getting darker earlier here in the Northeast, and I don't like it. It's almost dark by 4 o'clock p.m. here, and it's horrible.
Yes, it's getting very dark, very quick.
Makes me tired.
Winter is coming.
Yes. Oh, don't say that word. I don't like it.
Well, I'm happy to report that it's been reported in the newspaper and I think on the weather stations that it's supposed to be a mild winter to begin with. And then snow, I know that ugly word, snow, will not be arriving until January, February.
Oh.
So,
well, that would be nice. I could deal with that if that's what happens. I can deal with that.
Yeah, definitely. So as you
Brian,
said, you have a... Oh, I'm
Go
sorry. We're doing this differently tonight. So I'm actually on location somewhere. I can't see you tonight. I apologize. I'm busy doing something. So I'm only here to open the show like I normally do, but then I have to jet out and do something else. But you will be in good hands because tonight you're going to be talking with David Rosen, a fellow podcaster. So I'm going to let him talk about that when he comes on. About his show and music and all that other fun stuff that he does. So, but for now, we have two things important that we need to talk about. One being our T-shirts. Those are finally done and ready. And what was the other thing? December, correct? Yeah.
Correct. Yes.
All right. What do you want to start with first?
Well, our shows are going to be a little bit different from here on out. Right, for a little while. So I want everyone to hang tight and keep meeting us right here on Blog Talk Radio. The link will go up on Facebook afterwards. But Brian, go ahead. Explain how this December is going to go because we have a special show coming in December. I'll let you go into that.
Okay, so December 1st. So everyone knows that the month of December normally, we take that month off. We don't do any shows except for our Christmas show, which is kind of special because it's something I like to do. So as everyone knows, I go on vacation to Disney World every December. I go to Mickey's Christmas party, which is pretty awesome and cool. I decided to do it live so that everyone can see on Facebook, all our listeners and viewers and stuff like that can enjoy what I'm watching. So we did that for the first time last year, which was a hit. I had a lot of views on that. So we'll be doing that again this year. So that is December 11th. Around 6:30, 6:45 is when the festive stuff kicks off. So be prepared for that. So that's the parade, that's the fireworks, walking around, showing everyone everything down there. And that's live from Magic Kingdom. So that's pretty awesome. And, of course, I always do the videos in between the different parks I go to, the stuff I see. You know, I'd like to share it with everybody else. So that's pretty cool. The other thing is special show, December 18th, while I'm still down, unfortunately, on vacation. But it's going to be a good show because we have author Sylvia Schultz returning for our Christmas show. And she's going to be talking about her book, which the name of the book escapes me. I think it's Christmas Spirits?
Yes.
Something like
I believe so.
Yeah.
Yep.
I believe so. I don't have any paperwork in front of me, so I feel disorganized at the moment. But we have that happening December 18th, so that's going to be a cool show. So, and I can't wait for everyone to hear that. And plus, it's the first time we've ever done an actual radio show in the month of December in the 4 years that we've been doing this show. You said that the shows are going to be changing. Yeah, unfortunately, they will be changing. I've started a new job. Unfortunately, the shows will no longer be at night. So we're going to try something different for Season 5. That doesn't happen until Season 5, so people have plenty of time until this change actually happens. So we'll get into more of that, later on. We'll talk about the different shows that are happening. So, yeah. So that's December. What else do we have to talk about?
How can people purchase a T-shirt, Brian? Okay. Now that we have those.
Yes. I've been getting a lot of requests. We've done a lot of different things over the years on how people can order a T-shirt or merchandise with our logo on it, which is pretty cool. We have T-shirts available, which is pretty cool. And they're made to order, and we'll ship them straight to you. Or you can, if you're local, I'll even bring them to you, which is pretty cool. So this is to raise funds for the show. The shirts are $10 a piece, and they go from sizes small to extra large. We're also going to be introducing the sweatshirts in the same sizes. The sweatshirt will be $15, so not bad, but it's to raise funds for our show because Sherry and I need to get to a Comic-Con, a very important Comic-Con for next year at some point. I don't know the details just yet, but we need to raise a little funds. So that's the goal, and we're going to be doing more than just T-shirts. But T-shirts to start. So right now, pretty much people are going to have to wait until it goes up onto the website, and you'll be able to order there. You can send us a Facebook message in the meantime if you're interested, and go from there pretty much. So that's the T-shirts. Oh, and I have to mention that there's 2 different types of logos, so you can choose. We're going to throw up the pictures probably tomorrow on our Facebook page to get it out there and let people know which ones they can choose from and how I'll go about doing it. So yeah.
Okay. Excellent. Well, thank you so much. I'm glad you did post that because we've had a lot of people asking about them, and you posted a great picture of what they look like. So if anyone's interested, they can go back and look on our Facebook to see what they look like. So thank you all for your support on that as well.
Yeah.
Okay, Brian, are you ready to bring on our guest?
If there's nothing else that we need to talk about, because unfortunately that means I would have to go. Isn't that sad?
Well, Brian, you have yourself a great night at work. Sorry you couldn't join us for this full hour, but I'm just way too excited to bring David Rosen on the line tonight.
All right. Everyone, I hope you have a fantastic weekend. You'll be in good hands with Sherry and David. And we'll catch you all next Thursday. Have a great night, everyone.
Great. Thanks, Brian. Have a good night.
You too.
Okay. Thank you. All right. At this time, let's bring David Rosen on the line. David.
Hey, how's it going?
Hey, welcome to our show tonight. How are you?
I am doing great. Look forward to talking to you guys. Well, to you. I know Brian can't be with us tonight.
Yeah. Unfortunately, he, like you said, he's got to work. That's horrible. Poor guy. Did you notice how he's talking about his vacation, but he's still working as he's on vacation? Like, he's crazy, right?
Yeah, I guess that's you gotta do the work part first, and then you get to go do that stuff for fun.
That's right. Now, David, can you give an insight on who you are and what you're all about, so our listeners know who you are?
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. Well, I mean, just for a quick overview, I like Brian said, I am a podcaster. I actually have two podcasts. My podcast is called Piecing It Together, and it's about movies and the movies that inspire them. And what we do is we take a look at a new movie and try to figure out what other movies inspired it. And it's a fun show. We have a revolving cast of co-hosts, and I've been doing it about 8 months now, and I'm just really enjoying doing it. And it started after my other podcast, Bird Road, which is something I do with my best friend, and it's kind of a comedy and news and politics. And I was always trying to make it more about movies, and so I was like, well, I might as well branch off and do my own show too. And so that's where Piecing It Together came from. And aside from podcasting, I also am a music composer. I mainly compose music for films. I do like background music, like the scores and all that. Also for some commercials and TV and video games, stuff like that. And I release albums of instrumental music, which I have a whole bunch of projects we could talk about.
It's great. Now, so to my understanding, if there's a movie going on and you hear like the suspense music in the background, is that something like you would do? You would
Absolutely,
create that
yeah.
music? Oh.
Yep, that's what I love to do. But my favorite kind of music to work on are like darker stuff, like mysteries and scary stuff, and all that kind of stuff, tension-filled music. But I work in a pretty wide range of styles. I work on some comedy stuff, and there's a bunch of other different kinds. But there's just such a wide range. It's not like being in a band, really. It's more like being able to just try out all different kinds of musical ideas and see what works.
Well, it actually sounds really interesting. Do you get to watch the movie, like the scene, and then you have to produce the music to that scene? Or I've always wondered, like, how they do.
Well, I mean, it differs from project to project. Usually, that is what happens. Is I'll be talking in advance with the filmmaker, with the director, or sometimes just the producers, but. We'll talk about what the movie is going to need and all that, but then eventually a copy of the film ends up on my computer with no music, and it can be pretty weird sometimes, especially like horror movies and stuff like that. Like without the music, it's kind of just someone walking around and nothing happening a lot of the times,
Right.
But then it's your job to go in there and come up with something that not only fits the scene but doesn't overpower the scene, and it's not sticking out like a sore thumb. You want it to really be something that complements it, and it's fun. It's like making music and like a puzzle at the same time, which I enjoy puzzles.
Yeah, I mean, it sounds really intense too. I mean, you have to. I know, like when sometimes I hear music before a scene happens, you're like, uh-oh, or you. You get prepared for that moment. And do you find it really difficult to describe that? I'm trying to see how to word this. Describe that feeling, I would say, through music like that.
Yeah. Well, the thing is I love movies. Movies are like my favorite thing. And so I not only watch a lot of movies, but I do pay attention to what people have done before me, and like what seems to work and what seems to be the best practices for just making the most of it and making something the best that it can be. And so I'm always just striving to do things like that with the work that I do. And it all really comes, it's I said it before, but like it really is like a project by project thing. Like they're always so different. There are certain aspects of it that kind of carry over to all projects where you just kind of know, like, oh, I'm gonna have to ramp up the tension there, or I'm gonna have to make in the form of a horror movie, jump scares and stuff like that. Like there are certain things that you're gonna end up going back to, but really it's best when I get to just play around and try what I feel works.
Right. How long have you been doing this for?
So I've technically been doing it like over 15 years, but really actively working on anything like the last 8 or 9 years. And, you know, as far as like my career has been up until this point, it comes and goes. It's a very, the business is, I don't want to say difficult to get gigs, but it's like sometimes I'm swamped with like a whole bunch of films at once that I'm jumping between, and sometimes it's just one thing that I'm working on, or maybe even a few months where I'm not working on anything. But it's an interesting path, that's for sure.
Hey, and do you find it hard at times to find films to be able to work with? I mean, have you come across
the hardest part of it. Yeah, that's probably the hardest part of it. Like, honestly, once I have something in front of me, I love it. You know, I love just sitting down and just trying to make something that's going to work, you know, in all the ways that I, you know, was saying that a film score has to work. I love trying to figure it out and make it work. And the vast majority of the films I've worked on have worked out really, really great, if not like almost all of them. And so I'm just really happy with all the experiences I have had. But yeah, in the middle though, like finding new ones. Luckily, I've gotten quite a few word of mouth over the last couple of years, where people will recommend me and come to me, and that's awesome and makes me really happy when that happens. But yeah, then it's just a matter of scouring all these job sites, even Craigslist, and just really just looking everywhere to find someone who needs music for their film.
Wow. Well, I'm sure, you know, now you have a podcast, and I'm sure, you know, more people listen to this show and listen to the podcast. Hopefully, you know, you'll be able to gain more work from doing these sort of things.
Absolutely. Yeah, you know, one of the goals of the podcast, and this is something we've done a few times now, but I'm hoping to do more of it. So the way that the podcast works, I'll tell you a little more about it for your listeners who maybe haven't heard it. So with piecing it together, like I said, we take a look at a new movie and try to figure out what movies inspired it. So, you know, we talk about whatever new movie, and we'll be like, oh, it reminds me of the way they did, you know, cinematography in this movie from 10 years ago, or the story of this movie from 20 years ago, or whatever. And we end up with a list of you know, really good movies that you'll end up also liking if you like the movie we're talking about. And something that I want to do, and like I said, we've done it a few times now with some smaller indie films, but, you know, I'd love to do it, you know, big name people as well. But I love doing it with the indie films as well also. But is going back then after the fact and talking to the filmmaker and being like, you know, what do you think of the movies that we're suggesting inspired you? You know, are we right? Are we wrong? Is there any that we left out that were big inspirations for you? And it's been really fun talking to filmmakers after the fact and getting their feedback on what we do on the show. And it's been really interesting. And we post those special episodes. Like, they're not necessarily on every movie, obviously, but whenever we can, we do those special episodes. And the reason I was bringing that up is because, like you said, you know, getting heard by lots of people, if I'm talking to these filmmakers, is always a possibility I might end up working with them as well, you know, doing music for their, you know, future projects.
Well, definitely. That'd be great. And, you know, I wish you the best of luck to keep doing more and more, because I have heard a little bit of your work, and it's amazing. It's really great. Really
thank
is.
you.
You have great talent. Now, you work with other people as well. Is this just on the podcast that are your co-hosts, or do they help you produce music as well?
So I'm trying to think, actually, if any of the co-hosts I've had have been people I've worked with. I don't believe so, but the guy who I do Bird Road with, I have worked on music for him some. But as far as I'm piecing it together, no, they've just been friends of mine and other some film critics and film. There's been some filmmakers. I just haven't actually worked with those particular ones yet, but I'm sure we will at some point. But yeah, no, for the most part, they're kind of separate things, though. obviously makes me more busy than I've ever been, having to juggle a podcast and this music career I'm working on. But yeah, I'm sure there'll be more and more crossover as it all continues. The podcast is still pretty new. This is the first year I've been doing it.
Wow. I'm definitely going to have to listen to it because I can just imagine the conversations that fly around on your podcast with all of you being into movies and, knowing behind the scenes stuff and just what you think of everything. It's got to be like the most interesting thing ever.
Well, it's fun. One of the things I really love about doing it is because I don't have like a set co-host. It's like, always a different co-host. Some piecing it together. Although some people come back and do it multiple times. But because of that, it kind of gives a different voice each time. And so, for example, there's this film critic from here in Las Vegas, Josh Bell, who has been on like 5 or 6 times now. And, he brings a film critic point of view. He really knows his shit when it comes to movies, to the classics, to what makes movies what they are. He really knows his stuff. Mm-hmm. But then, then when I have my best friend, David Quinones on, he's the guy that I also do Bird Road with. But when I have him on the podcast, because we have that, that camaraderie of being best friends, it's like there's a lot of just joking around and going off on tangents, and it just gets a little bit more ridiculous, and so it keeps things, I think, fresh, and it changes things up a little bit with each episode, and I like that about doing it. It keeps it really fun.
Right. Now, I have got to ask you, when you watch a movie, are you judging by the filming, the plot, or the music?
It's everything, honestly.
Everything.
Yeah, it's really everything. Like, it's hard to separate that sometimes because, like, I do look at movies critically, I can't help it, but at the same time, there are movies that I just know are not what I would call a good movie that I just loved anyway. You know what I mean? And it's like, it really just, it depends on the movie. If I like the movie, I like the movie. That's what it comes down to. I try not to be too judgy with anything, and if I don't like the movie, I don't like the movie. That's for sure too,
That's fun. Can you name a movie you don't like, or you don't have to say, but just one?
Well, I will say it's funny that I do a lot of music for horror films, but I'm actually not a big horror guy. I like a lot of classic horror, and I love the Evil Dead movies. There's like a lot of like gory horror movies. Like I like that kind of stuff, but like more modern horror movies like The Conjuring, The Ring, The Grudge, and those kind of movies. I'm not really into those kind of movies very much.
Right. I think early 80s really hit good with horror movies, and now I can't even get into them now. I to be honest, I can't either. And
I agree.
They recycle a lot of the same ideas, and it's starting to get boring.
Well, it's funny. We haven't done it yet. We're going to do the new Halloween on the show, and the whole point of it is of the show is talking about what movies inspired the movie we're talking about, and really like when it comes down to it, the new Halloween, all it is inspired by the original Halloween. There's like not really much else to it. So it's going to be interesting once we talk about that one. I'm not quite sure how that's going to go, but we're still planning on it.
Right. I mean, I keep seeing all these movies. They're third, fourth, fifth, and sixth. It's almost like no one can come up with anything new. We've done aliens, we've done sea monsters, we've done big spiders, we've done, things underground.
It's true. That genre just definitely has a little bit of trouble coming up with the new ideas. There are definitely some good new ones though that come out. Like Hereditary came out this year, and I thought it was fantastic. So I mean, there's still movies within the horror genre that come around here and there. I really loved It last year. I thought it was a lot of fun, even though it was a remake. But it's just. Yeah, it's a genre that I think has a little bit of trouble here and there, but I do think there are so many good movies that come out every year that there's certainly no shortage of movies for us to talk about. That's for sure.
Definitely. Now, tell me a little bit about some of the new work that you're working on.
With my music?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Oh, sure. So the two newest things that I've done, I came out with a new album this year called A Different Kind of Dream, which is available on iTunes and Spotify and all those places. And so I put out two new music videos this year, and my music videos are not like, if anybody's thinking me on a stage, performing with smoke machines. It's not like that at all. My music videos are they're kind of like short films, like silent short films, since it's just music. But there's stories and all that kind of stuff to it, and then sometimes they're a little more abstract. And so the two music videos that I put out this year that they've been doing really well for me, and I'm super proud of them. So the first one is actually a virtual reality music video called Palindrome 360, and it's this really cool, trippy, weird video. This one's a little more abstract, but you're basically in this room and you start floating to the ceiling. But as you're moving along the ceiling, everything else in the room is spinning around you and stuff, almost like what's it called, Alice in Wonderland type stuff. It's pretty cool. And this company, New Line Videography, put it together for me off of an idea that I had, and it's been doing really well. We've been getting a lot of great feedback on it from that whole virtual reality scene. It's pretty wild. This is actually the third video in that style I've done, which is a really fun, interesting new area, and I'm hoping to do more in there. And then the other new one is called Artificial, and this one's really, really special for me because it's a story that I wrote, and it's basically about a girl who she's an engineer, and she builds this perfect companion for herself. And she, she's in love with this artificial guy that she made for herself, and then she breaks its heart. And it's sad, it's dramatic, but it's also kind of darkly funny. And this director, Ben Yonker, helped bring the thing to life, and it came out so beautifully. It's probably my favorite thing I've done. And this is actually a song from my last album, Head Like Fire, but I ended up doing an extended remix because it needed to fit the video better. And so it was originally a 3-minute song. Now it's a 6-minute song. It's my big, giant song. But the video is done really well. It actually won a few awards, and it's been playing at film festivals all over the country. And so I'm just super proud of it. And they're both available on my YouTube channel, youtube.com/music by David Rosen.
Wow, that's great. Now, you actually designed the video yourself, as far as the idea of it, and then it's your music?
Yeah.
Wow.
So that's not how it always works. Some of my music videos have been completely the idea of some filmmaker who was like, "Hey, I like that song. Let's make something," But these two just both happen to be ideas that I had, and I wrote them out. I'm not really a writer, but I wrote them kind of short story style, and then the people who brought them to life, they adapted it kind of into an actual screenplay, and then actually made it,
Mhm. Wow, it's pretty cool. So we can see both of those on YouTube?
Mhm. Yep, youtube.com/music by David Rosen. And there's also links to it on my website, bydavidrosen.com.
Very neat. Very neat. Now you have a website as well, right? That you just said. Yeah. I'm sorry.
Yeah, the website by David Rosen.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And that website has links to all my stuff. There's also got a reel that I put together this year with clips from some of the films that I've done music for. And there's also some samples from some of the other films that aren't included on there, and then just links to all my stuff because like anybody, my stuff's on various different websites, iTunes, YouTube, and all the different stuff. So there's a lot of links. There's also a blog there with like news and stuff about what I'm up to and what other projects I'm working on. So yeah, definitely anybody who's interested in checking out my music, that's probably the best place to go. ByDavidRosen.com.
Very neat. Now, have you done music you said you've done music for commercials too? Not just movies, but...
Yeah, absolutely. And it's kind of the same type of situation as with films. I mean, sometimes a producer will, come to me and say they need, music, and they send me the commercial or even TV, or even if it's not like a commercial, but like a promo video for maybe like a new website or a new app or some kind of other thing. Even I've done a couple of public service announcements. It's like all different kinds of any kind of video content that needs background music, and they might send it to me where I write music for it, or they might just say, hey, can you make me something fun and upbeat, or they might say, hey, can you make me something somber and serious, or whatever it is, and I'll make some music, and if they like how it came out, great. If not, I'll make another one, and until they like what I made. And yeah, it's I love working on that kind of stuff. I also have a lot of music available in these music libraries where producers who aren't working directly with a composer like myself, they might just find my music in there, and I obviously get compensated if they use that music, but yeah, I have a lot of music available. I've been, before I was actually scoring any films, I was still making music constantly for the last almost 20 years. So I've got a lot of music to pick from.
Wow, that's amazing. Now, you must be very talented, as in what you can play as far as instruments, I would assume, right?
You'd be surprised. I actually am not much of a live player. It's funny. I it's just kind of the way that my I'm mostly all self-taught. I took a few classes and lessons here and there, but I'm not classically trained in any sense of the word. But I do seem to be able to put music together with what I have learned over the years, and always trying to grow in every possible way. So there's so much to learn when it comes to, with anything, but with music there's a ton. And I do play. I might mainly play keyboard and synthesizers and all that stuff on the keyboard and samples and all that. But I also play guitar and bass and a little bit of percussion. So I do play a little of a lot of instruments, but yeah, no, I'm not joining any bands anytime soon. That's not my style. I'm more of a studio musician, and lock me in my room and tell me what you need, and I will do my best to make it happen. It usually works out pretty well.
Right. So so now that I know you, we need some intro and extra music. And Brian would be so happy I asked you that question right now.
Nice.
But
nice.
Do you do stuff like that? Do you actually make music just for openings and endings? You can do that sort of thing.
Sure.
I'm sure.
Absolutely. I did it for my own show. I actually just did a piece of music for the Set Lusting Bruce podcast. It was a podcast about Bruce Springsteen. And I just did that last week, and I think that they're enjoying it. And I'm not sure if they used it yet on their newest episode, but they said they're loving it and planning on it. But yeah, I do music for podcasts, and I also have a bunch of music that's already done that, sometimes we could just pick something that I got available, and something works, it works,
Right. That is awesome. Very cool. Can you tell me a little bit about what the Wax Tracks Records is?
Sure, yeah. So my family, we own a record store here in Las Vegas called Wax Tracks Records. It's a store that my dad has had and been running well before I was ever in the picture. He had it in New York first, and then when I was born, they moved to Pennsylvania and moved everything with them. And then once I graduated high school, we up and moved everything here to Las Vegas. And it is, it's crazy to say, but it's literally one of the biggest and most impressive record stores in the country. It is 3 floors of just like wall-to-wall vinyl. Like there's so many classic and like records you can't find anywhere else, but that there's so many of them in my dad's store that you like literally have to like step over them while you're like walking through the store. It's like ridiculous.
Wow.
And we have I mean he specializes in the hardest to find kind of stuff, like the like the early pressings, Beatles, and a lot of soul music and all that kind of stuff, the jazz and oldies and everything really. We kind of stop in the 90s. We don't have new stuff. Sometimes a little bit will make its way into the store. I mean, it's just like the place is almost like a museum, but where everything is for sale, but nothing's priced. You got to just ask him for something and he'll price it however he sees fit. It's basically just his collection in a public place. It's not even really like what you would traditionally call a store. There's no tags on anything, and it's like a lot of times he'll actually have to talk to you before you start walking around in the store. And some people don't like that, but he just doesn't really care. He's he's a New Yorker, and it's his stuff, and you play by his rules when you walk in the door, or you don't like it and you leave, and he's fine with that. But yeah, it's a fun place, and that's where I am during the day when I'm not working on all my music and my podcast and everything. I do all that by night, and I work at the store by day with my family. And it's a really cool store. We do have a Facebook page. We have a website, but it's not really that much on it. Our Facebook is really the place to go. It's facebook.com/WaxTraxRecords, and you can find there's lots of pictures of some of our celebrity customers, and I also post little funny things he says because he is quite a character. So it's a fun Facebook to check it out.
That would just sound like an amazing store to go into, and I'd probably spend hours in there just looking and looking and looking. I'm sure you have people in there for a long, long time.
Absolutely.
Would you say that this is what inspired you in your music, is having this music around you all the time?
I think that's pretty fair to say, yeah. It's certainly not something that I ever set out. Like, it wasn't like a conscious decision or anything, but I with music around me from the day I was born, I'm sure it had something to do with it. And it's funny, too, because there's a style of music, industrial music, which is like 9 Inch Nails and Ministry and all these groups that came from the Chicago area and also from Europe. But and they were all on a label called Wax Trax back in the day, and it was total coincidence. This was before the internet, and so my dad didn't know them, and they didn't know my dad. But that is the kind of music that got me into making music. And so it's just funny that Wax Trax, the label, is kind of what got me into making music when my family is Wax Trax.
Mm-hmm. Interesting. Now, is there a fear out there that people won't be able to use any of these records, that they won't be buying them? I mean, is there... It's kind of weird because I actually saw a record player in the store the other day. It's almost like they're coming back in some weird way.
They absolutely are. Yeah, no, they absolutely are. It's been happening for a few years now, and I'd say the coming back it's already complete. As a matter of fact, if you look, there's been a bunch of stories about it. CDs are practically dead at this point, and it's really come down to just streaming and vinyl is the only thing that sells anymore when it comes to music. Even with my albums, I was pressing them on CD for a while, and just nobody seems to want CD. You know, they want downloads and streaming, and they want vinyl. And record players. There are lots of new ones, or you can go out and get a vintage one. You know, we sell record players too, but I mean, man, you could get them at Best Buy and Target now. I mean, they really are like a big thing now. It's crazy. And it's been good for us. I mean, you know, because of the kind of rarities that my dad, has managed to, you know, collect over the years, we've always kind of been a destination for serious collectors. But now it's serious collectors and just kids who just happen to get a record player. And, you know, like CDs, those are those things from the 90s, you know. It's like the records are the things now, you know.
Right. I was really surprised to start seeing the stores starting to sell these again. I was like, wow, like that's a record player. I haven't seen that for a long, long time. And, you know, it really has a sound of its own, you know, and
it does.
It's pretty cool. Definitely.
Yeah, it absolutely does. I think it's a combination of the sound, and it's also the fact that, you know, when you listen to a CD or like something on your phone or whatever, it's like you can easily just get swept away into multitasking and doing other stuff. You might, you know, you're doing just whatever else you're going to do. But when it's a record, I mean, you're kind of, because of the format, you're kind of forced to just sit there and listen to the record, and that just makes the music better. When you're not, like, you know, dragged in, you know, 20 different directions doing a whole bunch of stuff at once. When you're just sitting there listening to music, it's a better experience.
It's true, and I don't think people really take the time to listen to music anymore. You know, to really just sit back, relax, you know, and just zone into it like they used to be able to do that.
Yeah, it's so true.
But yeah, so do you have anything else new that's in your horizon, or something you wish you would be doing or could be doing at this time?
So I did just release a new single at Halloween time called Stalker, which was like a Halloween themed single. You know, it's of course instrumental music. And it's very horror themed, and I got that out like just in time for Halloween, which was great. And I made a Halloween playlist, so that was fun. And then I also, this is kind of ridiculous, but I have a side project that I've been doing since college with some friends, and it's basically comedy rap. And it's very, very ridiculous. It's pretty damn offensive, but it is really ridiculous and fun if you're into that kind of thing. And the newest release is it's a very, very long story that we don't need to get into completely here, but it used to be one big group, and it split up into all these separate groups, and there's actually like a bunch of albums out. You can check out polarbears.net. That's Polar Bears with a Z, to find out about all those groups. But one of them is called Demise and D-Rocks, and our third album, D&D Talks, is coming out in a couple weeks. So I don't always promote that stuff quite very much because it's so stupid and just so ridiculous. But
Dad doesn't know about this one, right?
Yeah. No, they certainly know about it, but it's not my finest moments. Let's put it that way.
Right.
But it basically takes all of all the stereotypical like gangsta stuff of rap music and takes it times 1,000, basically, is what we do. But all really well produced, I must say. So
I've got to hear some of this. I need to hear something different and fresh. Yeah.
I will send you a link for sure. But yeah. But yeah, so that album's coming out on November 23rd, and it's just fresh on my mind, so I figured I might as well bring it up. So I was actually just uploading the files tonight.
Did Weird Al inspire you for this sort of thing?
Oh, absolutely. 100%.
He's awesome.
Weird Al with bad language.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I love Weird Al. Weird Al is absolutely one of my heroes for sure.
Oh yeah, I grew up with him, and my brothers listened to him constantly. So I was stuck in the car listening to Weird Al Yankovic a lot.
Yeah.
And my kids are like, I don't want to listen. I don't know what that is. I'm like, just listen to it, But
they need to learn.
I know, right?
Yeah, it's
they're
important.
Too old now. They're all in their 20s.
It's part of growing up.
Yeah,
it's a major part of growing up is becoming a Weird Al fan.
That's right. That's amazing.
Yeah. But aside from my ridiculous comedy rap, I definitely am working on more of my real music. I plan on putting out an album of remixes early next year of my instrumental music, which I actually have collaborated with a lot of really great musicians on. And then after that, I'm also planning on putting out a compilation. There's this company called Free Your Mind. They're a film production company, and I've actually scored 5 films for them already over the last 4 years. And I'm going to be doing another one. I'm not sure if it's going to be the end of this year or early next year, but once we do the next one, I'm planning on putting out like a little compilation of pieces of music from the scores to those films. And so that's going to be a little different from any of my other albums because, obviously, film score music, it's not always as beat driven or there's no, it's not catchy or any of that kind of stuff. It's just like good music, and so it's going to be cool. It's going to be a little bit of a different thing. And so I'm putting that out next year too. And I got a few other projects in the works, but they're all a little ways off, otherwise just continuing to grow my Piecing It Together podcast because I'm really enjoying doing that.
Right. Definitely. Now, when do you do that podcast?
So that comes out pretty much every Friday, and it's on Apple Podcasts and Spotify and all the big podcast places. And also my website for it is piecingpod.com. You can also find us on social media at piecingpod. And anyone interested in talking about movies with us or maybe even being on an episode sometime, you could join our Piecing It Together movie discussion group on Facebook. That's a closed group where we just talk about the podcast and talk about movies. And it's been a lot of fun doing that, and got some new people in there that are wanting to maybe be on the show sometime. But yeah, it's usually every Friday that we post an episode. I could tell you right now that this Friday's episode is on an indie film called Never Going Back, which is the comedy about these 2 female stoners, and it was really good. It came out earlier this year. It just came out on video on demand and all that, I think last week. And then next Friday, we're putting up an episode that we already recorded a few days ago on Mid-90s, which is in theaters now. It's also an indie film, and it's about the 90s. It's about skater kids hanging out and just living life in the 90s.
Cool. Well, it definitely sounds like you have a lot going on. You're a very busy person.
Oh, I'm always so busy. It's ridiculous. So busy, doing a bunch of stuff.
Yeah, we really appreciate you coming on the show tonight and talking about all your stuff and what you've been doing and what you've done. Can you give a few examples of some of the shows that you have music on that people can look up?
Sure. So a lot of the films that I've worked on, they're, like short films and stuff that you can find links on my website to a bunch of them. But a lot of them are more things that just like play at film festivals and stuff like that. As far as films that are like full feature films that are available out there to watch, there's a few of them. There's one that came out this year. It's actually a silly but fun one called Bus Party to Hell, and it actually stars Tara Reid. and it's almost like a Sharknado type thing, like a totally ridiculous, over the top kind of movie, and it's a lot of fun. I didn't do the whole score, but I did a bunch of music for it. I did the main theme song that plays on the credits, and I did during the big, like, there's like cannibal Satan worshippers and all that stuff while they do their big thing. That's my music as well. So I mean, it's pretty fun. It's a very ridiculous movie, but a lot of fun. I also did music for a found footage movie about a scary doll. It's called Heidi. That's available on Amazon. And there's another movie called Better Criminal. It's like a thriller. And that's also on Amazon as well. I know I'm forgetting a couple others that are on there as well. Most of the films I've worked on, like the features, are available on Amazon, and some on other places as well. That Bus Party to Hell you can find on Red Boxes all across the country, which is pretty cool. You can also check my website, bydavidrosen.com. Has links to most of that stuff as well.
Awesome. Very cool. Now, if someone wants to get in touch with you personally to do music on some sort of project, do you have anything special that they can go to get up with you?
I would say just check out the website, and you definitely, there's a place on the website you can get my email address and get in touch with me, and absolutely I'm always open to collaborating on projects, and anyone needs to hire me for something. I'm always interested in working on cool things, So definitely check out bydavidrosen.com and get in touch. You can also find me on Facebook, Music by David Rosen, and Twitter @bydavidrosen. And I guess that's enough links for the moment. That's a lot of places to get in touch with me. You'll find me on one of them.
Right. Now, you were saying you also do another podcast, so you do two or just one? Because there's one Bird Road podcast. What's that?
Yeah, so Bird Road podcast is a podcast I do with my best friend Q, and I like to say it's like our podcast. It's like something that he is a little more. In some ways, he's kind of like the lead on it, and then I'm kind of like his silly co-host. But basically what we do is we talk about news and politics and just joke around. There's a lot of comedy. We do little sketches and stuff like that on it. And, it's fun. It's something we've been doing for about a year now. And he used to live here in Las Vegas, but he moved to Miami like almost 10 years ago now, and so we've always been wanting to try to come up with some kind of project that we could still do together, because he was actually one of the people I did the funny rap music with back in the day, and we also did some skits and stuff, like some little comedy bits and stuff. So we always wanted to try to figure out something we could do long distance, and so we finally got the podcast started last year after talking about it for years, And it's a lot of fun. We do a lot of goofy stuff on there, and then we just talk about all the awful, crazy stuff happening in the world.
Oh, that's great. So you just choose like news that's happening, and you guys just talk about it?
Yeah, we talk about various news. We're I'm not sure how you guys are politically, but we're pretty big progressives, and so we get into all the things happening in that world, and about what's happening in the opposite side of things as well, just to and usually it goes from a mix of informative and just joking around and making fun of everything.
Oh, that's awesome. Now, when can that be heard again? I'm sorry.
Yeah, sure. So Bird Road is not as, piecing it together is every Friday. Bird Road is kind of when we can get a new episode up. Usually it's on Mondays, but you can find them all on Apple Podcasts and Spotify and all those podcast apps. Just look for Bird Road. We've got, I think, 43 episodes up already. So we should be getting a new one up this week, I think. Wow,
that's fantastic. Really exciting. I've got to check all these out now. Is there a way to communicate?
It's a lot for you.
Yeah.
What was that?
Is there a way to communicate with you guys as you're on your podcast? Like, do you have live call-ins, or is it strictly just kind of between the two of you?
Well, we do have guests sometimes. To be completely transparent, we are in the middle of possibly switching our recording solution. So I'm not even really sure what our guests or call-in options are going to be once we get switched. But, right. So it's kind of hard to say. But we definitely have had guests on the show a bunch of times. And it's, it's fun when there's guests, but I also like just, we started it just to mess around and do something together. So it's cool when it's just us two. I enjoy that.
Yeah. Yeah, sometimes Brian and I are like that as well. We like to just take off on our own tangents, and we don't have guests, but we do like to throw guests in there every now and then. So it's nice to have guests on too, and breaks it up a little bit. We did a live show actually back in January, which was a lot of fun. Where we certainly didn't have the following for it yet or anything like that. I mean, it was only a couple months into starting the show, but he was here in Vegas visiting, and so we were like, screw it, let's try it. And so we booked a bar venue, and we booked a bunch of guests. It was actually a little bit before why am I drawing a blank on the word right now? For you know what I mean, for voting for all the local candidates and all that stuff. But so we had a bunch of them on that. Cool. What's that? So you did it out and about somewhere.
Yeah.
You weren't
so that was a lot of fun, and it was 4 different guests, all on one big show. So it was pretty interesting.
Nice.
We're going to hopefully try it again sometime.
Yeah, no, that sounds like a lot of fun. We got to try that sometime, Brian. I know Brian's going to listen to the show later, so
yeah,
definitely have to try that sometime. It sounds like a ton of fun.
Sure.
Yeah, well, David, would you like to give up any more information where people can find you? Maybe one more time.
Absolutely. So for my music, you can check out my website, bydavidrosen.com. You can get in touch with me on social media @bydavidrosen on Twitter, or Music by David Rosen on Facebook. And my newest album, A Different Kind of Dream, is available on iTunes and Spotify and all the other music stores. And my new music videos are on my YouTube channel, which is youtube.com/Music by David Rosen. And then as far as my podcasts are concerned, Piecing It Together is @PiecingPod on all the social media sites, and piecingpod.com. And you can find it on Apple Podcasts and all the other podcast apps. And Bird Road Podcast is @Bird Road Podcast everywhere, and birdroadpodcast.com. And that's Wax Tracks, my family story. Check out Wax Tracks Records, waxtracksonline.com, or check us out on Facebook, which is the best place to check us out other than coming into the store. Facebook.com/waxtracksrecords. It's WAXTRAX. And there's a lot of fun stuff to check out on there.
Definitely. Well, David Rosen, thank you so much for coming on to the Brian and Sherry Show tonight. We really appreciate you coming on, and it was a whole ton of fun. I learned more than what I had thought, so this is awesome. It was really nice meeting you.
Absolutely. Thank you again so much for having me, and I'm really glad to be here. Thanks again. Sure,
we'll keep in touch. We'd love to have you come back with new stuff, so I think it'd be so much fun. Definitely. Well, thank you so much, and have yourself a great night. Thank you to all of our listeners here on Blog Talk Radio and on Facebook. And we hope Brian has a good night as well at work. We're sorry he couldn't join us tonight, but he'll be with us again soon. So everyone, have yourselves a great night. And thanks again, David. Have a great night.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thanks so much for listening to this episode of The Brian and Sherry Show 4.0. If you enjoyed today's episode, please leave a review and subscribe. And for more great content and to stay up to date, visit brianandsherryshow.org and on Facebook, Brian.Sherry Show. We'll catch you next time.